So if you still don't know or already know, Tilaipse has overall 3 deck builds for him. The first build is already showcased in the channel featuring Golden Beast Tamer, and the second one is with Dorian. The Dorian build is almost the same as the Golden Beast Tamer build. In fact, you can even mix the 2 grade 3s and Tilaipse in one deck, which is I think the better version of it because you can switch between farming and then being aggro with Golden Beast Tamer. The first 2 builds are pretty straightforward and almost have the same playstyle. However, in this third version of Tilaipse that I'll be showcasing to you guys is really interesting. It's a lot stronger and a lot harder to pull off. It's a bit simpler than the 2 builds, and personally I think this is the strongest version of the deck. And the unit that will mix Tilaipse with is none other than Masked Magician Harri. If you didn't know that this deck existed yet, you might be a little bit surprised right now, but I swear it really works and it's really strong. And if you want to know more about how this deck functions, well, you came to the right place. Hi guys and welcome to the circus. So introducing this deck right here, I know it's kind of weird. You're gonna use 2 main bosses in one deck, and Harri is not even a beast tamer, so how the hell does it synergize with Tilaipse? Well, to be honest, I had the same question the moment I heard that this is possible. I tried it out first, and it was very clunky, it was very bricky, as you might have already imagined about it. If you already tried this, you might have already seen the flaws of the deck. I personally have experienced almost everything about this. I tried it to the best of my abilities to make it as consistent as possible, and hopefully it checks out because I think currently it's consistent enough. It's also the first time that Pale Moon had a deck where your 2 main bosses are both male. And it's just actually quite refreshing because the deck feels really different compared to the rest of the Pale Moon card pool. It only has 1 playstyle and 1 game plan alone. If it works, it really will devastate your opponent, but if it fails, it just fails miserably. Here I'm going to share everything I know about the deck and how I built this deck specifically, and as well as the reasons behind each card in this list. If you already tried this out, maybe you can just try to compare my list to your list and find some similarities or some differences between them, and then share your thoughts in the comments. So with that out of the way, let's take a look at the deck list. So of course, before I showcase the whole list, let's talk about first on how this deck performs or the game plan of the deck. So the overall game plan of the deck revolves around 4 cards, namely Tilaipse, Harri, Lore Pigeon Pop, and Chlorina. So these 4 are your main cards. You need to have these 4 cards as soon as possible, otherwise your deck will not function at its peak. I would personally split this pile into 2. You can split it between Harri and Lore Pigeon Pop and Chlorina and Tilaipse. The reason is, in your first grade 3 turn, you need to ride Harri and have a Lore Pigeon Pop by turn 3, which is like, you know, the standard thing for Harri. You need to ride Harri first, get a stage, and then Lore Pigeon Pop will produce another XL, which makes stacking your stage a lot faster basically. If you don't open up with this, it's actually fine. The important thing is Harri. You need to have a Harri as your first vanguard every single game, because if you don't ride Harri first, 8 cards in your deck are dead just like that. So yeah, this is the first step of the overall game plan, is to find Harri. I cannot emphasize this enough. You need to ride Harri first, not Tilaipse, okay? This is the game plan of the deck, and preferably open with the Lore Pigeon Pop in hand. Next, on your second grade 3 turn, your turn 4, you need to ride Tilaipse next, or at least as soon as possible. The moment you ride Tilaipse is the moment you burst down your opponent. We'll showcase it in the game flow part of the video. And at the same time, you need to have a Chlorina available to be called from your soul using your Tilaipse skill, because you need the additional Vanguard skill of Chlorina in order to make your Lore Pigeon Pop off once again. The moment you ride Harri and then you ride into Tilaipse, you're all set. You're already established. Meaning, as you might have noticed as I was talking about this deck is a turn 4 deck. You know, it's kind of like Bruce, where the big burst is always on the turn 4, or at least the moment you ride onto Tilaipse during the game. If you don't open up with Lore Pigeon Pop, at least you can soul charge him. It's fine because you can call it out via Tilaipse. And Chlorina will reuse your Lore Pigeon Pop because the stage mechanic stays there for the whole game unless your marker is removed. An additional goal you want to achieve during the game, or at least by your turn 4, is getting 3 bunnies in the soul or in your field. 3 bunnies means that your Chlorina will get Twin Drive, and also your Tilaipse will produce plus 3k to the front row, making your Star Pop Dragon a magic number. which is actually really amazing. Just 3 bunnies is enough in my opinion, because you only need the twin drive and the plus 3k to bump up your Star Pop Dragon even more. Just by having 3 more bunnies makes your Star Pop Dragon burn at least 1 more 5k shield from your opponent's hand. However, if you can't get the 3 bunnies, it's actually fine because Clarina as a Vanguard already has her skill just without the twin drive. But of course, you would prefer to have at least 3. Beyond these cards right here that you see, everything else inside your deck is just shield value. You can throw away everything else besides these because again, the deck only needs these cards right here. So yeah, this is the overall game plan. Actually, the game plan can be easily visualized when you play this deck, and I will showcase it to you guys in the game flow part of the video. But for now, let's take a look at the deck list. Okay, so first let's take a look at the grade 3s and 4s. So of course, we're gonna be running the 4 copies of Tilaipse and the 4 copies of Harri. This is like a mandatory thing. You cannot cut any of these cards. Because again, the game plan of the deck is to have at least 1 of each or your deck will just die. Your deck will not function. This is the most important thing. You need to have 1 Harri and 1 Tilaipse. It's either you get these 2 or not. That's the main goal. The primary goal is get 1 Harri and 1 Lore Pigeon Pop, and then the next is 1 Tilaipse and then 1 Clarina. Also 2 copies of Star Pop Dragon because you know it's the other win con. I mean it's the main win con of the deck. 1 copy is okay if you want to get ballsy about it, but if you're afraid of hitting this as your first damage before your grade 3, you need to run the second one just in case, okay? So that's it for the grade 3s. Let's move on to the grade 2s. Grade 2s, 4 copies of Lore Pigeon Pop because it's, you know, it's the mandatory thing. This is the main engine of the deck. You need to have this. And then 4 copies of Clarina. Again, as I said before, these are the main pieces of the deck. You need to run as much as possible in order to get this as soon as possible or have the most possibility of fetching these. Just having more copies isn't that bad because it's also shield value, discard fodders, and other things. Next, we're going to be running 2 copies of a Static Baton Twirler. So this is one of those cards that boosts up your consistency because on plays, you get to draw a card and then shove 1 card from your hand to the soul, which is already a cycle and helps you dig through your deck in order to fetch your 4 cards that you need that I mentioned before. And beyond that, it's also a 14k attacker, but it's not active until turn 4. The important thing here is that you can just cycle in the early game and you can maybe rush a bit, utilize the intercept because it only that much damage in the early game, so you can throw down your additional hand cards that can help you dig through your deck, and I run a lot of those in the deck. I can't find space for more than 2. Maybe you can just cut this other tech that I'm running here, which I'll talk about later. Also, let's pull up the grade 1s after this because it's all about consistency at this point. So for grade 1s, we're running 4 copies of Brassy Bunny, 4 copies of Masquerade Bunny, and 4 copies of Amusing Bunny. The main issue of the deck is consistency. You cannot always open with all 4 pieces, right? And I've been there so many times. So I just decided that I will cut everything that is not a consistency card. And I mean everything including the Magia Dolls. The initial lists before that I've seen runs a bit of Magia Dolls just to have at least 1 game plan on turn 3 if you have the Magia Dolls in Soul. It also bumps up your Star Pop Dragon. It's also shield value. And I get that. I get the point. But beyond turn 3, which is the weakest turn, your turn 4 onwards makes your Magia Dolls dead. You can call it from your soul as well, but I doubt you have the luxury to call that. Speaking from experience, I just really thought that running like 4 or 5 copies in your deck that is only viable in turn 3, it's just taking up space for more cards that can possibly boost up the consistency of your deck, which is what I did. Amusing Bunny is a great ride target, of course. It can search out your Tilaipse and your Clarina. Masquerade Bunny is a given because it's a grade 3 searcher. And Brassy Bunny is really clutch. It's a discard 1 draw, which is another cycle. It can ditch your additional copies of Harri in the late game. It can soul charge 2. What do you want to soul charge? You want to soul charge a Clarina or a Lore Pigeon Pop as well if you didn't open up with Lore Pigeon Pop in your grade 3 turn, because you can just then call it out via Tilaipse in order to basically do your thing. It converts your low shield value to higher shield value if possible. It searches out for more bunnies, so it's just a really good card here. Also, more bunnies, meaning more chances that you can get your 3 bunnies on your 4th turn, right? So that's another thing to take note of. And basically, these are all the cards that I decided to run in order to boost up the consistency. And I think it really checks out. It's not perfect, but it is what it is. If you want to run the Magia Dolls, feel free to do so. It's still fine because it's still a good card to have. So I'm running 1 tech card, which I really like, is one-off copy of Dead Life Juggler. Now this is a bit of a weird one. because it's a generic 3k base with 2 crit, right? The reason for this card is it's like an additional lore pigeon pop. What I noticed in the deck is that on your turn 4, you're consuming a lot of resources, especially in Counterblast. It's overall Counterblast 3 to pull off the full combo. And you don't always have 3 CBs, right? If your opponent survived that turn and you ended up with only 1 CB left, you're not gonna use your lore pigeon pop anymore. However, you still have that fat stage at the top, and that fat stage is most likely 50k or 60k at that point. And if you have a Dead Knife Juggler in hand or in soul, this is like your additional 2 crit attacker, but without the guard restrict, which is still a lot because it's still too critical. Also, if you know that your opponent can survive and you don't want to spend that much CB, like you're preparing for the next turn as well, if you have this, you can just call it out on the stage. This is gonna become like a 53 to 56k, 2 critical that can be sentineled, but still it's fine because you have 2 Vanguard swings, and at the same time, you're saving 1 CB that can be used again next turn. So that's the reason for this card. If you don't want to run this, it's fine. You can just cut this for 1 more copy of a Static Baton Twirler. You can just ignore this if you want to, but if you want to try it, feel free to do it. So those were all the normal units. Let's move on to triggers. We're gonna run 4 heal guards, 6 crit, and 6 draw. So this is the ratio, 6 crit, 6 draw, because drawing is nice defensively and offensively. It just digs through your deck. I did run 8 draws before, but I found that the deck needs to survive as well, so you need to have shield, especially going second. So basically, I just wanted to have more shield, so I sticked with 6-6. If you want to try out 8 draws, feel free to do so. If you want to run 8 crits, even 12 crits is possible. Since you have 2 Vanguard swings with potentially 4 drives, crits are always nice to have. And for heal guards, because of course you want to survive. And of course the starter, because, you know, it's the starter. You need to have a starter. And yeah, that's the deck list. So yeah, that was the deck list. And now let's move on to showcasing to you guys how this deck actually functions during a game. Alright, so welcome to the game flow part of the video. Here I'm going to showcase to you guys how this deck actually works. Hopefully, because again, as I said before, this deck is quite inconsistent. It's not perfect, but it is what it is. Hopefully, I get to showcase the potential of the deck and the overall flow of the deck and the purpose of each cards. So yeah, let's proceed with cutting the deck just like so. And let's proceed with checking our first 5 cards. Clarina, Bunny, Draw, Starry Pop, and Harri. Okay, this is pretty nice. I'm going to just keep everything else besides from these 3, because this is your main ride. This is the must. This can potentially search your Tilaipse, your ride target that can potentially have you twin drive. Now we're missing Lore Pigeon Pop and Tilaipse. So let's proceed with this. Move these 2. That's another Bunny and Lore Pigeon Pop. Thank goodness. No, okay. This is just a very lucky start, I would say, because normally when I play, this isn't the best hand that I can have. It's even worse. I don't open with Harri at all. I keep getting Tilaipse instead of Harri, which is the bad part, because you need to ride Harri first, as I said throughout the entire deck profile. Okay, so let's proceed with this. Let's again proceed with going first. As always, draw a card. Let's ride on to the Masquerade Bunny. Let's draw first, why not? And then check top 5. 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now, we're set. Oh, wow. This is pretty lucky. I'm already set. I was just really surprised because normally it doesn't end up this way. I'm really unlucky with this deck sometimes. I mean, most of the time, I'm not gonna deny it. So, ditching a card, I will ditch this because I don't need this anymore. So, yeah. We have everything we need. Wow. Wow. Holy shit. Okay, so let's proceed with this. Thankfully, we can showcase the potential of the deck. So let's proceed with this. If you can guard now, actually, you might as well just guard it. Because before your turn 4 or your first grade 3 turn, at the very least, you only need 1 CB. Any additional damage is bad, is no bueno, because you need to reach turn 4, so you need to survive. With this, we don't have anything else that can guard. So we're going to take 1 damage. Oh, it's a draw trigger. So we're going to draw a card into another Lore Pigeon Pop and proceed with the next draw phase. So we drew into a Heal Guardian, which is really nice. Ride into Clarina. So you have an option here. You have an option to have the Twin Drive by committing these 2, or just keep everything else and sacrifice the Twin Drive. But I think that is fine because you have the Heal Guardian right now. You can just go for the Twin Drive right now and hopefully get draw triggers in order to farm your hand even more and dig through the deck. You can also filter with Masquerade Bunny, so I think this is fine. So yeah, let's proceed with that. Okay, so the placement of these bunnies is actually quite important. On your turn 4, you need your Chlorina to be in this part of the circle, of course. You don't want to put your Chlorina on the stage because it just ruins the whole game plan. And Chlorina is the weaker Vanguard swing, so you need to have a good booster for her. I'm thinking of putting Masquerade Bunny here, or just putting Amusing Bunny over here, using the skill of Chlorina, and keeping this. I think that's the way to go. So yeah, trust me on this, you want to place this here. So on place, check top 5. That's a grade 3. And right here, you're just gonna get the grade 3 and fetch it down because you don't need anything else besides from these cards right here in your hand. Okay, so now we're gonna swing with our Chlorina. Using the skill of Chlorina, put this to soul and then call it here in order to open up the front row and not get this sniped, or just to prevent your opponent from removing this. And you can just put it back in the soul anyway after you swing with him. So this is Twin Drive 9k. First check, nothing. Second check, nothing. That's sad, but that's more bunnies. Swing here and then put it back in the soul and pass the turn. So right here, you can do the Heal Guardian now. You don't need more than 1 damage, as I said before, so you can commit this. And then, yeah, let's say survive because you did have a Heal Guardian, stand and draw. Ride Harri, finally. Ride Harri. Get Excel 1. This is the crucial part, okay? Get Excel 1. You don't want to go Excel 2 in this deck because I don't have Magia Dolls. If you do have Magia Dolls, I think you can afford to do that. But again, I don't want Magia Dolls in my deck because it's not a filter card that can help me get my pieces needed. And I need a lot of pieces. So Excel 1 is the way to go. And actually, you're willing to sacrifice the draw, or rather, make yourself not need the draw 1. The Excel 1 is the main fuel of your stage. Without Excel 1, your Star Pop Dragon is not gonna have a good time. You need the Star Pop Dragon to reach 40k, and the stage with an XL2 with 4 markers is just 20k. So you need XL1. Trust me on this. You need XL1. You never go XL2, okay? That's the game plan. So next, we're just gonna be calling down Lower Pigeon Pop here. You can actually stick with this board and keep the rest, or maybe you can call Masquerade Bunny or Brassy Bunny and convert this into another hand card, maybe, possibly. So I think we'll do just that. Call this down here, drop the Starry Pop, draw a card. Oh, that's nice. Charge 2, crit, and I'm using Bunny. That's another Bunny in the soul, which is nice. It just bumps up your board even more once you ride onto Tilaipse. So yeah, let's proceed with this. You can move this up if you want to. If you want, you can just call this down here because it's still an intercept and you already have 1 copy of Chlorina in the soul earlier, so it's secured. This is just an additional copy, so you can have this. This is our first swing with the Lower Pigeon Pop, swinging for 19, CB1, bounce. Superior, call the dragon from the deck, the 1 last remaining dragon, because you do run 2 copies just in case, okay? Again, if you don't want to run the second copy, or you feel like you won't be punished by running only 1 Star Pop Dragon, feel free to cut it and just put in more filter cards. I just don't want to risk it, so I ran the 2 copies. Call this down here. Get the additional Excel because of the stage mechanic. Now your Star Pop Dragons just swing for 20. You need 2 triggers to make it into a 40k. It's not gonna be likely every time, so it's still fine. The important thing is getting another Excel. So first, nothing. Second check, heal. So you did swing with Twin Drive earlier. So I'm assuming that you're not gonna hit the heal. Give it to Chlorina to hit over a magic number. Star Pop Dragon swing for 20, and this swings for 27. Oh, this, by the way, retires and pass the turn. With this hand, you're not gonna survive. So you can just take damage because in your turn 4 onwards, you need at least 3 CBs for the combo. So at this point, you're pretty much willing to take a lot of damage. Sadly, we don't check triggers. We did check a heal. Let's assume that we're getting the heal because it's still a weak turn, so you're most likely gonna heal. And if you can afford to guard even more, you can just take damage. That's fine. And guard with this, I suppose. Guard with this. And now let's proceed to our Tilaipse turn, the highlight of the show. Draw. First things first. Right, Tilaipse, obviously. Get another Excel, and since we still have the stage mechanic, it will just stack right there. Next, using the skill of Tilaipse, Counterblast 1, putting these to the soul, no problem there. Calling out 2 cards. I shall call this here, and just to make it uniform, I guess we'll assume that we'll intercept with this earlier, and then just call Chlorina here. And then make this as your additional Vanguard. And actually, this is the only board you need. How many bunnies do we have overall? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bunnies. So overall plus 5k to the front row. We have all the CB in the world. We have the setup. We have everything we need. Everything is in place. Let's proceed with battle phase. We're now going to be starting off with our Lore Pigeon Pop right here, swinging for a massive 34k. No, 44k. Math. This is a massive bird. They will most likely take it or not, depending on their mood. After that, what matters is how this board turns out, okay? After the swing, since it's on a stage, you CB1 bounce it, you superior call the Star Pop Dragon from the drop zone, getting yet again another Excel 1. Now your Star Pop Dragon is now swinging for 45k. 2 crits, no Sentinel. But first, we're gonna swing with our Vanguard first, just to hit some triggers and give it to the Star Pop Dragon, or pass it on to Chlorina if you want to. So first, check, draw trigger, nice, draw card. Oh, Dead Knife Juggler in our hand. Star Pop Dragon is already 45 with 2 crit. You can potentially just put it on Star Pop right now, but it depends on their damage. If you have a feeling that they will just take this Star Pop Dragon swing, or if you see that they don't check a defensive yet, you're gonna be most likely willing to just give the power to Chlorina in order to have more pressure on this column. Because your Vanguard is already swinging for 23, this is only sitting currently at 22k. It still has a twin drive, but you know, more pressure means more shield value out of their hand. So assuming that they will most likely take this Star Pop Dragon, giving the power there won't matter that much. So you can just give it here. Again, it depends on your opponent, depends on their hand size, so you can be the judge for that. I'm assuming it in a way that they will most likely take the Star Pop Dragon right now. So I'm just going to give the power to Chlorina, draw a card, and then second check, another draw. So in this case, since you hit double trigger, just give the power to Star Pop Dragon, it's fine. Swing now for 55k, double critical, no Sentinels. If they took it, I mean, they're fine. Star Pop Dragon will retire itself. Swing now with Chlorina. Use the skill of Chlorina to put the Lore Pigeon Pop that you bounce from your field to your hand into the soul and then call it back out. In this situation, you can still use another Star Pop Dragon, but you still have the twin drive right here that won't be passed on to your Star Pop Dragon next, but it's fine because your next Star Pop Dragon swing is still gonna be hitting for 55k. So let's proceed with the twin drive right here. First check, another draw trigger, power 2, the Lore Pigeon Pop. Second check into an Amusing Bunny that does nothing. So give power here. Now your Lore Pigeon Pop is swinging for a massive 54, 59, 69k. Nice. It's still just 1 damage, but it's still a massive number. So after that, you CB1 once again. Since it's not once per turn, you CB1 bounce this again and superior call yet again Starry Pop Dragon, proceeding with getting another Axel 1 and swinging massively for 55k, 2 crits, no Sentinel. That is a massive turn. So the turn was, you swung initially for a massive 44k Lore Pigeon Pop, which is sometimes just a take. You superior call your Star Pop Dragon, swing with your 23k with 2 crits, which is most likely going to be PG'd because they can't PG your Star Pop Dragon. Give everything that you can check on your triggers to the Star Pop Dragon or pass it on to Chlorina depending on their situation. Overall, you can be the judge for that. Swing for a massive Star Pop Dragon with Sentinel Restrict already. Retire the Dragon. Swing with your Chlorina. Superior call your Lore Pigeon Pop once again that you bounced earlier onto the stage. And if you have the additional CB, you can do it again. You swing with a massive 55, 65, whatever number this bird can bring. Bounce it again to your hand and swing with again another Star Pop Dragon with a massive number, at minimum 54, 53, 55k, which hits for magic numbers, a Sentinel Restrict, and a crit, which is devastating as you can tell. You can already potentially end the game right here. If your opponent survived, I mean that's that. You still have a massive hand as you can tell, because before Chlorina's skill is just a +1. Right now it's already a +2 because your Lore Pigeon Pop is bouncing back to your hand, meaning you don't minus from this card's cost. So as you can tell, this turn is really massive. You produce a lot of Excel already. You replenished your hand. I did check a lot of draws, which is a bit sacky, but it is what it is. You want to sack to win, so there's no argument there. And yeah, this is the overall game plan of the deck. So as you can tell, I did draw into Dead Knife Juggler. So potentially, if your opponent survived this turn, like so, you're going to take 1 damage, right? That's a crit, so power to the Vanguard. Check your soul if you have additional Chlorina. or in your hand. Otherwise, you're gonna be willing to let go of this Clarina. You have the additional one here, so you can possibly intercept with this, guard with this, everything else besides from this, and this. Everything else is just gonna be thrown down. So let's say you survived. You're gonna stand and draw once again into a heal. So right here, you CB1 for your Tilaipse once again. Put these to the soul. Call this here, and this is the additional Vanguard once again. It's like before. You only have one CB though, right? That's no problem. Swing with this for a massive, I don't know, how many bunnies do we have? Still 5 plus 5k plus 5k. So this is swinging for flicking 64k. What the hell? Okay, so 64k it is. You CB1 right here. Bounce. Superior, call the dragon. Get yet again another Axel, which is now swinging for, how big is this? 65k? What the hell? Okay, so swing with your Vanguard next. Twin drive, first check, second check, nothing. You're gonna swing with 65k, 2 crit, no sentinel. Let's say they survive this for some reason. You're gonna retire him. You're swinging with Clarina. You don't have CB. Oh no, what do? I fetch Dead Knife Juggler, put it to soul, call it here. Swinging again for 29k twin drive, first check, nothing, second check, nothing. And then you swing with your Dead Knife Juggler massively for 68k magic number, 2 critical, but can be sentinel, but most likely your opponent won't have enough cards to guard this because they already initially have to face a 65k dragon earlier. So yeah, in that situation, Dead Knife Juggler was your savior. Actually, anything here in the stage is possible because it's already massive, but with the additional crit that Dead Knife Juggler provides, even though it's not sentinel restricted, it's still quite massive. So this is why I like this tech right here. So yeah, overall, that's the game plan of the deck. That's the game flow of the deck, and that's how this deck functions. I did sack a bit, but I needed to sack because, again, this deck is not as consistent as the other decks. It's not the most consistent deck in the format right now, but it is very, very strong. This has a high ceiling. It's probably and arguably the strongest Pale Moon deck right now because of how massive this turn is, as you can tell. But again, it's not the most consistent. If it pops off, it really does pop off, and it will just ruin your opponent's hand size, no matter how big it is, because of how massive your numbers are, and the Sentinel restricts. The 2 Vanguard swings with both twin drives. It's just really, really strong, as you can tell. And yeah, this is the game plan of the deck. So yeah, that's the end of the deck profile. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys liked this list that I made, and I hope you get to try this list yourself if you did. And if you already did, please leave your thoughts down in the comments. Please leave your stories down in the comments. Maybe there's a combo that I missed. Maybe there's a combo that you know that I don't know. I would love to learn it from you. This deck is actually really, really fun. It's a bit challenging, as you can tell. The challenging part isn't really the deck because the game plan is already solidified. The only thing is the consistency of the deck. If you manage to make a list that is very consistent, please leave those in the comments so that I can learn from you. Apologies for the lack of uploads recently because I was sick in the past week. I'm all better now, so I hope I can now showcase to you guys a lot more content that I have in my storage, I would say. There's a lot more V Premium content coming up, especially with Clan Collection 3 and 4. I haven't given my thoughts yet about the Glucky reveals. It's because, first of all, I don't own the deck yet, but I do know how it's played right now. I've been playtesting with it. More deck profiles, more fight videos coming up for V Premium, so stay tuned for that. If you haven't subbed yet, please do so because it would really help the channel. Again, thank you everyone for watching. Together, let us raise the flag of Dark States, and I'll see you guys next time.